Serious, ex-convicts of Reddit, what is one thing you miss about prison? Respect. I so surprised how blatantly rude and cruel people are in the real world. I don't know if it was the threat of violence or the fact that people can't run away from each other, but for the most part people were a lot more respectful. The most respectful person I ever met was a felon. Good man. Decent spades players. I can barely find 3 other people to play with now, let alone 3 competent players. I miss spades so much. Seems dumb, but I miss it. Only did 10 days in a county jail, but I felt the same way. Watching those guys play was like watching a work of art be made, especially once someone taught me the game and I was able to follow people's moves through a whole game. Just last August I was in Baltimore on a job, and me and some of the crew went out for drinks. The only place that had a pool table open was the bar and we ended hanging out there for a while. Halfway through our game, a group of 4 queens sit down at a table and start a spades match. I quit the game to stand around and watch these guys duke it out. The play was quick and tenacious, but their back and forth banter was the real gem. Must have watched them play for a solid hour. Structure. Having everything planned for you and not having options makes life simple. Ever thought about joining the military? You can't join as a felon, but yeah, sounded like the military to me. Working out consistently, being very healthy, having a daily routine, working a job on the prison farm, the convict friends that I had, all the reading that I did, had some very good times in the joint. Apart from the convict friends, I don't see why you can't have those things out of prison. The symbiotic economy. Need tampons? Trade some stamps. Need shampoo? Bang out a nice birthday card for that lady's kid. You can sew? You don't even need to buy whites. Caught tomorrow and wanna look good? Get that cosmetology chick to give you a hand and you'll bring her some snacks on the way back from the kitchens. I also miss how creative I was while incarcerated. I haven't drawn anything in a little over 2 years. I drew daily in jail and prison. As someone who will be spending a little over a year in prison in a couple months, this thread has really taken away some of that fear. Thank you for asking this OP. What for? Several counts of organized retail theft. In early 2016 I was a addict and to feed my habit I was stealing electronics from various stores and pawning them. Now I'm over 8 months sober and still dealing with the ramifications. Don't do drugs, kids. Free food, party of peers, lazing around all day playing cards, pumping iron. But that party is over, so now it's back to working for a pencil neck boss for peanuts. Not having to pay taxes was really nice. I went in right after high school, and when I got out, I was 22 and had never paid a bill before. That was a weird transition into the real world. Reading this thread, I'm realizing that people miss prison for the same reasons I miss the military. This is a pretty damn interesting comment. Having served time in both the Navy and prison, I can see this. They are similar institutions in a lot of ways. Meeting other men, of all classes and culture. Never been to prison, but this is something I need in my life. I miss having a guy friendship. Unfortunately I moved countries and left them all behind, and can't seem to find any here. Some of these answers kind of made me want to go to jail. Look, prison stinks, is what I'm saying. It's not like you can go home and recharge your batteries and come back in the morning and be with your friends, having fun in the office. Friends, fun, just take me to jail, fam. Not having to decide what to eat, what to wear, and all the free time. You can replicate this for yourself pretty easily. Just buy some number of outfits and rotate them on a specific schedule. Do the same thing with food. It's not exactly the same as literally having no choice, but automating a lot of these little life processes is really freeing. I miss the motivation I had to get in shape. Jail and prison life can be very boring, so you tend to get into routines. Working out, jogging and playing ball was just a part of my everyday routine, as important to me as eating or sleeping, but when you get out you tend to lose a lot of that motivation and routine. having anyone to play handball with, also the quiet time. I was lucky enough to not have a celly for most of my time, so I took full advantage of the library. I learned a lot. I'm a frantic person who's constantly pulled in 100 different directions, so knowing I had nothing to do besides read and learn was extremely cathartic for me. Free access to workout equipment and laundry services. Not having to commute to get to them. Sure, I hated wearing orange, but I lost so much weight. Now if I want to join a gym I gotta pay more than I want to afford. Just one. Well, lack of personal responsibility. Free food, not that bad in Spain. The strange friendships, and even a bit of the drama. The homeliness of one's cell after a day of occupational. The confraternity, at times, the football, getting paid to fart around in the mornings, studying, they called it, etc. Source, spent 18 months in juvie in Spain, not prison, but I was still a convict. That's what will do to a 16-year-old. People didn't act like they couldn't understand why one man would punch another guy. Yes, we are sedated in this PC world. The sex. I've read this in a couple of comments. Is it true? I don't know if it counts, but I was a former carer at a prison. I miss some of the inmate stories. Prisons are their own little community within itself, and it's interesting how they run. Good times, good times. Not having to do stuff in prison, you get 3 meals a day automatic and you are free of all obligations. There are two things. First, you sort of form a type of connection with at least one other person in there. In one jail, it was my cellmate. We'd sleep all day and stay up all night laughing and playing games of rummy. In another jail, it was a girl who said she could tell I was also an Aquarius just by looking at me. Sometimes I wonder whatever happened to them. And also, the breakfast burritos on Fridays. No joke, I miss those. I miss not having to contribute to society and having everything taken care of for me. I don't get the down votes, honestly. Deep down we don't want to do Being able to misbehave as much as you like. You can't drop down any further. I highly doubt that. Believe what you like. Did you guys play a game called Phase 10 in there? Not prison, but I spent a few weeks in a teen outpatient psych ward, and we would play that game all the time. That's prison at the time. Love that game. Learn how to cook. Most kitchens don't give a about your past, as long as it's not like or stealing from your workplace. They just want someone who will show up to work, not up and does their job alright. You don't even need to learn to cook. When I ran a kitchen, I hired an ex-con for the dish pit. Over a few months, he'd picked up enough helping out with various that I moved him to the line. Hard worker, nice guy. Seriously, kitchens are a haven for felons if they're willing to work hard. The camaraderie. We would have a potluck out in the yard. Everyone would bring a Pepsi or candy or an oatmeal cake and we'd laugh, joke, play football and talk about the foods we miss and the we miss. Do that until the sun sets and it's time to go back to our pods. We don't have the time luxury outside. Everyday life is too busy to sit back and do those things. Inside time doesn't matter. We're all trying to waste it and let it run by as fast as possible. You can take your time with everything. I made some really good friends in there. Guys you see every day. Some guys you even share a room with. Literally a room and not a housemate. We all promised to stay in touch, but we all return to our lives and get busy. Free Spanish lessons. Learned a lot of Spanish and found out about marbles and pearls that they would put in their The structure. It helped tremendously with my OCD, anxiety and, believe it or not, depression. Knowing when I was going to eat, shower, sleep, exercise and the like was very helpful for me personally. I've never been in, but I've been in some other highly structured situations and it always helped me. I hate admitting that to myself though, and I feel like I'm negotiating if I ever ask someone to impose structure on me. In the hospital I loved having structure. Wake up at the same time, lunch at the same time, group at the same time. Loved it. Out of curiosity, did anyone who served time have young kids? How did that change things in jail? Getting out of jail becomes priority number 1. I know this sounds like an obvious answer, but you'd be surprised how many inmates don't really care about release. Some people walk in with other intentions like gaining respect, blending in, etc. With kids at home you have to become thick-skinned. No matter what anyone said or did, you had to let it go. For example, I've never been to jail, but I can speak for the other side of that, as my bio dad was in prison from about when I was 3 until I was 6 or so. No one ever told me that he was in prison, but I kind of suspected it, and confirmed it when I was 8. People would just tell me that was his work or something like that. Honestly, it probably delayed me completely despising him, as he was an exceptionally father. I wouldn't call myself a convict, but in my drinking days I spent 15 days in jail for DUIs. I miss reading. I read a lot in jail. Without all the worldly stimuli, computers, and phones, I was able to focus in like literally any time in my life. I read all sorts of books. My favorite, Memoirs of a Geisha.